Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
The opening sequence of the trailer for the video game Cyberpunk 2077. The announcement for this game took the internet by storm in 2019, and it became another important media under the cyberpunk genre. It even got its own anime adaptation earlier this year, Cyberpunk Edgerunners. First off, what is cyberpunk? The cyberpunk genre is defined as, quote, a genre of science fiction set in the lawless subculture of an oppressive society dominated by computer technology, end quote. Think of the future where there's robots everywhere and everything is dark and grimy. There's geishas on the billboard, neon lights surround you, almost like a dystopia. But what this definition fails to include is how heavily cyberpunk relies on the use and fetishization of Asian culture to build their world settings. This is how the word techno-orientalism, or sometimes called cyber-orientalism, came to existence to describe this overt misuse of Asian culture. But you can't start to understand techno-orientalism without understanding orientalism at its base. Orientalism is a term coined by the cultural critic and theorist Edward Said and was introduced in his controversial 1978 book Orientalism. Here, Said argues that Europe, wanting to keep their political power, created the idea of the Orient to subjugate and control it. The concept embodied the distinction between the East being the Orient, this is including the Middle East, Asia, and North Africa, and the West being the Occident. The Occident was considered the norm, but the Orient was considered a deviation from the norm, beneath Europe's superiority. This nexus of power and knowledge centered in Europe enabled the West to generalize and misrepresent the East. It is also important to consider that the creation of the Orient was a result of imperialism and colonialism at its time. Orientalism can be seen in art, where artists for many years have misrepresented people of the Orient as passive or promiscuous subjects. Take, for example, the painting The Snake Charmer and His Audience. Created in 1879 by the French artist Jean-Léon Gérôme, here a naked kid is seen holding a snake while an older man plays the flute, charming both the snake and the audience. The problem with this depiction is that it is a scene out of Gérôme's imagination, but the realistic painting style suggests this was an actual scene he has observed and was present for. Back then, cameras weren't as powerful as they are now, so with this painting, he also suggests that this was a daily occurrence in the East. There's also some weird fake Arabic words that are honestly just gibberish and not even remotely correct on the textiles. These ideologies even affect our view of the East today. One of the most popular Orientalist media of our time is Disney's 1992 film, Aladdin. You might wonder, how is Aladdin Orientalist? But it is so integrated into our media that we don't even realize our views are fabricated of racist and xenophobic stereotypes. When looking at Aladdin, it's hard to pinpoint where exactly he's from. He could be Indian, he could be Arabic, he could be Egyptian, and that is the problem. Agrabah, the setting of Aladdin, is a compilation of a bunch of racist stereotypes of the Middle East. In the opening song Arabian Nights, the merchant goes,
"It's barbaric, but hey, it's home,"
marking Agrabah as barbaric and uncivilized. And I'm not here trying to say, cancel Aladdin, oh my god, don't ever watch it ever again. But I'm saying it is critical to acknowledge the faults in the media you love and how they can harm marginalized people. So how is techno-orientalism different from just regular Orientalism? Techno-orientalism stereotypes Eastern Asia as, quote, both technologically advanced and intellectually primitive, in desperate need of Western consciousness raising, end quote. It depicts Eastern Asian societies as so technologically advanced that it no longer has any traces of humanity. This can be traced back to American anxieties about how fast Japan's economy developed after World War II in the 1970s, a fear of an America that is more Japanese than American. This period of Orientalism is referred to as Japan Panic, coming right after the 1920s Yellow Peril. This theme is prevalent in Cyberpunk 2077 since the main antagonist is an evil Japanese corporation. It is also written all over Ridley Scott's 1982 Blade Runner, considering its time of release. Within Cyberpunk, there are three main Orientalist tropes that are widespread in the genre. Number 1. Asian coded cities. If you look at these elaborate cyberpunk cities, more times than not, the cities are inspired by what appears to be vaguely Asian-coded metropolises. But you can never figure out what Asian culture it is. The Orient is usually a deviation from the norm in how the East is viewed as backwards. But in this case, East Asia cannot be called backwards for its technological advancements. Instead, they are just soulless robots. A good example is A24's 2021 film After Yang, centering around a Chinese android who was a companion to a Chinese girl, Mika, within her adoptive family. Even though the film's focus is on Chinese hegemony and robots, what makes After Yang feel futuristic becomes indistinguishable from what makes it appear generically Japanese. Number 2. White main character navigating this world. What's interesting is that even though these settings are all Asian coded, most of the main characters in cyberpunk movies are in fact white. We got white guy number 1, white guy number 2, white guy number 3, white guy number 4, and finally we have our real first Asian main character. I'm kidding. The list goes on. It isn't fair to use Asian culture yet center all of these stories around white men. They want to use Asian culture, but don't want to face the struggles of being Asian. These people get to play costume, while Asian people don't get to simply stop being Asian. Number 3. The robot characters are played by vaguely Asian characters. It is often characterized by tropes following this, depicting the Asian cyborgs that can be used for sex and are submissive, Asian cyborgs that are subservient to their human masters, almost equating Asians to be the soulless robots the West viewed them as. I would like to speak about one movie that, although some might consider to be more of a kid's superhero movie, does have cyberpunk-esque characteristics. Disney's 2014 film, Big Hero 6, is set in the fictional city of San Francisco, a fusion of San Francisco and Tokyo. It is able to do something none of these previously mentioned films can. Homike Baba, an Indian scholar and critical theorist, introduces a new concept called hybridity of the third space. He describes it as, quote, wherein cultures formerly known as colonizers or the colonized converge, combine, and continuously change, end quote. In Big Hero 6, these two cultures don't clash, instead compound to create something entirely new. The city is surrounded by Asian culture, but it is more of a fusion, still having notable characteristics of an American city. Our main character hero, technically Asian, is still Asian. He's a very smart kid, and he does not use xenophobic stereotypes to carry his character. Lastly, our main robot is a medical robot, Baymax, who has no Asian characteristics. He's just a cute marshmallow Michelin guy. Of course, when using Asian culture, the question of cultural appropriation will always arise, and I'm not calling Big Hero 6 perfect by all means. But it proves that these cyberpunk authors no longer have any excuse. It is possible to use Asian culture without racist or xenophobic tropes that have long plagued the cyberpunk genre. To close off my video, I think this quote from Kazuma Hajimoto's Polygon article articulates the sentiment of the message I have been trying to send. Quote, cyberpunk stories can be told effectively without supplanting the fear of the quote other, while simultaneously aping culture for the sake of aesthetics. We can have stories about fighting back ultra-capitalist corporations and authoritarian dictatorships that step away from the tropes that continue to drag the genre down. It's what we deserve, and what stories about our future, as bleak as it may be, should be about.